right, welcome to another Tanya class. Exciting because the Tanya we're learning today is Hashkacha Pratis. The Tanya is usually on Tuesday. We thought pushed off to Wednesday because there was a Simcha here, but we're actually learning today's Tanya. So L'chaim, the Tanya should have its desired effect, in more of a mensch, service of Hashem. L'chaim. Okay, here we go. So, we have the right medicine. The right medicine is Torah. The medicine is contemplation of God's greatness, right? You want to serve Hashem, and you want to learn Torah, and in order to learn Torah properly, in order to pray properly, you have to appreciate whose Torah it is and to who you're praying, right? Otherwise, you just you read the Seder like Time magazine. God's the person of the year, thousands of years ago in his magazine, yeah. So until now, the Alter Rebbe has been telling us in the first 8 or 9 chapters, he's telling us who we are, right? And then actually more than 8 or 9, the 12, 13, 14 chapters, who we are. There's a tzaddik, and there's a rasha, and there's a beinoni, and there's a godly soul, and an animal soul. And when a person thinks about this, and we have to, how is it that a person should stay away from doing averis, because every aver causes a separation of godliness, and doing a mitzvah, every mitzvah causes a connection to God. All that's fine, but now we have a problem. What happens if you're thinking and it doesn't have the desired effect?
You're thinking
what you're supposed to think. You're taking all the right actions, but it's not having the desired effect. Why? Because there's obviously something in the way. So let's say a guy wakes up in the morning, he says, today I want to daven.
And then they take their phone.
No, he doesn't take his phone. No, he doesn't take his phone. Just for a second, okay. And he wants to concentrate, and the desire is there. The problem is he's thinking, I have this meeting and I have this bill to pay. He wants to do the right thing. He wants his mind to be in the right place, but his mind is getting distracted. And over the next few chapters, the Alter Rebbe is going to deal with different problems that can happen when the medicine is not finding the mark. Because the medicine is the right medicine. This ain't chemo, where we know it's terrible, but we don't got anything else, right? We know this is natural herbs. We know this is the best thing out there. Torah, mitzvah is contemplating on God's greatness. If you're doing it right, it should have the desired impact. So then the problem is, it's not the medicine, it's you, right? So then what's so today's Tanya we're learning is how to deal with problems of everyday life. And usually everyday life means money, and you could talk about money is the world's curse, but when a person doesn't have money and you can't pay the bills, there's a tremendous amount of stress, and it's very hard to concentrate on davening or prayer and learning when you got a mortgage on your head and you got to pay tuition and you got to pay groceries and everything else. So the Alter Rebbe is going to divide this into 2 parts. First of all, you have to understand that where it's coming from, and then number 2, we're going to talk about. The Alter Rebbe is going to talk about is think about why it is you're thinking about it. Was mit amal? Why all of a sudden you decided to think about problems? Let's get into it, okay? V'hinei, this is in the old print 346, where it says the 21st of Shvat. In the new print, Ira?
355.
355. Thank you. V'hinei, and now that's the new print 355. A good advice. L'taher liboy, to purify his heart. Uvenidnud, but it says, thank you. Mikol Eitzev, from every worry. But nidud means, he translates it here as trace, but nidnud means a tremor. Nidum means a movement, right? You're trying to concentrate, and all of a sudden you get like, hey, when you have butterflies in your stomach, you're nervous. It says, Naiga milalma, worries of mundane matters, usually by lack of essentials.
Mila di Alma is the worries of this world?
Yeah, Mile, it says stuff of the Alma of the world.
Okay.
And Alter Rebbe is saying, we're not talking about, oh my gosh, I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm a Panthers fan, I hope they win the game, or, we're not talking about nonsense shtus, right? We're talking about, I feel a bane chayim resayne. Talking about real things. You're worried about your kids, you're worried about your health, you're worried about your livelihood. These are real things, you know what I'm saying? These are real problems. We're not talking about the Yankees here. There's a story, I don't know if it's ever been substantiated. I don't know, but it's a good story. Rabbi Groner, who's the Rebbe's assistant, born and raised in New York. They say he was a Dodgers fan.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
The Dodgers were in Brooklyn, right? Until 55, 6.
Yeah, 55, 56, something like that.
So he was already the Rebbe's assistant before the Rebbe became Rebbe, right? So they say, I don't know if the story happened in the 40s or in the 50s. One day the Rabbi Groner was upset, whatever it is. The Rebbe asked the Rabbi Groner, what happened? The Dodgers lost.
There was a Rabbi Groner in Detroit, and the rich non-religious conservatives. Are they related?
I don't know. Yeah, we gotta find out.
That question is in Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah, maybe. The Dodgers lost a lot. Anyway, in the World Series. So we're not talking about worries. About they say in either shtuyot, talking about real problems. But so first, the Alter Rebbe says, first you got to take a step back. And you have to know, L'chal Maimer Zalo, everybody knows the saying of the sages, Kashem Shemerech Al Teva, the famous the Gemara in Brachas, just like you thank God for the good, the Gemara continues, you got to thank God for what does it mean thank God for the bad? Because most of us...
The same way,
yeah. So most of us, I don't know, by default, or it happens, not on purpose, that when something good, God's smiling upon me. When something bad happens, a person says, God forgot about me. And there is no such thing as God forgot about me. Hashem's hashkacha, Hashem's monitoring, it's like ADT, 24/7 monitoring service. There is never a problem with the connection. The Gemara. And by the way, it doesn't mean it's easy to accept. It's a hard pill sometimes it's a very hard pill to understand.
Rabbi Akiva says only good comes down from the...
So it's interesting, by the way, you bring that up, because I wasn't sure to say it or not. The Rebbe once gave a fascinating talk. You know what Rabbi Akiva's teacher was? One of Rabbi Akiva's teachers was a man named Nachum Ish Gamzu. You've heard of him? Nachum Ish Gamzu. He's buried...
In Gamzu?
No. He's buried, I think, in Tveria. Tveria or Tzfat. And they found his cavers in someone's front yard.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was called Nachum Ish Gamzu because whenever something happened, he would say Gamzu Lotova. This also is for the good. And the man suffered tremendously. I mean, you hear the stories. He had no hands, no legs. I mean, the man suffered health-wise, money-wise, and everything he said, Gamzu Lotova. His student, Rabbi Akiva, and he also had some problems, Rabbi Akiva. He said, called the Avodah Rachmana, everything that Hashem does, the tav of it, he does for good. Rebbe once spoke about the difference in Nachum Ish Gamzu and Rabbi Akiva. Nachum Ish Gamzu was experiencing suffering. Only, he said, it's for the good. Yeah, it's suffering, but you have to know it's good. Rabbi Akiva was on a different level. Rabbi Akiva, what bad? Everything the Eibishter is doing good. The Eibishter doesn't do bad. You're experiencing bad. Yeah, that's it's a problem. It's a shayla.
It's our perspective.
No, it's a real shayla. So the question is, if you can do it in a pleasant way, imagine medicine. You have medicine bubblegum flavor and vomit flavor, right? Meaning, if you can give me bubblegum flavor, why are you giving me disgusting flavor, right? But it's medicine. It's good. LMI, why does a needle have... If I can give you medicine, a needle, it shouldn't hurt. Isn't that better?
Yeah, that would be great.
I remember, by the way, my sister-in-law once told my wife, she says, Cyril, don't have a baby with epidural. Telling you thank me. The best experience ever. When Chana was born, the labor happened so quickly. Cyril didn't have time to have an epidural. She didn't have time. She wanted it. It said it was too late. She was almost ready. Cyril said, I don't know what she was talking about. It was hell. Like, if we can have an epidural, why not, right? So the question we have on the Eibishter isn't, where were you? I know you're here, and if you can give us what we can have, pizza, bubblegum, popcorn, right? Why are you giving to me in the bitter flavor? But everything the Eibishter does is good, right? So the Gemara says on this, so the Kabbalah b'simcha, a person should accept with joy, just like you accepted the good, right? If I gave you $1 million, you wouldn't say, "Oh, terrible news." You'd be happy, right? You'd be jumping up. You'd be jumping up and down. So you also have to be happy because this is also the good. What the person's experiencing negative is also good. Let me tell you, you guys know. My personal family, things haven't been easy the past few weeks, right? It's not easy. It's not easy to accept it with joy, right? It's not. I think it's an appropriate time to tell the story. There's a rabbi who always used to quote this Gemara. Same thing. You make a blessing for the good. You also have to make a blessing for the same way. So this rabbi, in order to support himself, he had a business on the side. Not like your rabbi who sits and does nothing the whole day. This guy actually,
I thought you played golf all day.
Okay, same thing. Right. All day. Anyway, so one time, this guy made an investment. A business. I'm not sure if it was in wood, logging something. And the ship that was carrying his investment went down. And they didn't know how to break it to the rabbi. I mean, the guy was, you might have a heart attack, So one student went over to him and said, he'll do it. He went to the student and said, Rebbe, says, tell me, how do you explain the Gemara the same way? So he says that no matter what happens, he said, but I don't understand. He said, what does it mean to be happy? So he said, you have to be happy, but I don't get it. He says, just like you're by a happy thing, you're happy and you get up and you dance and everything else. That's the way you have to be at sad news. So he said, Rebbe, start dancing. The ship went down. The guy fainted. When he came to, he said, all of a sudden, I don't understand the Gemara.
Mochin de katnut, maybe.
No, meaning it's very easy to say it, but it's not easy to it's not easy to internalize it. But we have to know.
We have to repeat.
Yeah,
So
I'm saying,
we have
yeah,
to say it accordingly when the time comes.
It's not it's not easy, but we have to know, and the Rebbe is saying something here. Actually, everything the Eibishter does. I mean, this is interesting. The Alter Rebbe is touching on a very powerful idea, but sort of in a by the way. Not really to address why bad things happen, but more to address that you can't concentrate. So first, you got to know that if you found out, you found out in the morning, someone gave you great news, right? That you won the lottery, you'd be able to daven, right? Woohoo! Great, right?
Probably.
Right?
If that would happen, that would be the first thing I would do.
Right? That, right?
Or are you going to go get the
Right.
money?
No, daven. No, yeah, 6 months to get the money. Rak, any nira, everything Hashem does is good. The only problem is any nira of a niglas. It's not any niglas for nira. Sorry, any basa. You can't see it. You can't see it. You be'amad discuss it because it's from the hidden world. So let's address this. Actually, I'm going a lot slower than I thought we'd go today. So let's address this because the Alter Rebbe is touching on this very famous concept born in Kabbalah. Kabbalah explains that just like in the physical world, there's a seen world and a hidden world. Seen world is on land, and the hidden world is the water. You look at the ocean, it looks like there's nothing. Miles and miles and miles of absolute nothingness. But now science has told us, not only there's as much life in the water as in land, there's a lot more life. There's so many species we haven't even identified, and we haven't scratched the surface. Right? Go to the Mariana Trench over there. They keep seeing things. You see these creatures. I once saw a slideshow. Creatures from below the sea. They look otherworldly.
This Jew reported that he saw in Miami half a mermaid, half person.
Okay, that obviously is.
What?
But be careful, Jews in Miami. A Jew in Miami, shut out somebody. But I'll be stay clear of Jews in Miami these days. That's not a joke. I know it's a dark joke. No, I'm saying, but the point is, so there's what you see on land, and that's nothing compared to what you see. Take for example, under the sea. Take for example what science has taught us in the past 150 years. This is what you see, and then you put it under the microscope, and there's so much more there. So why can't you see it? It's because we're very limited in our ability to perceive. Same thing in holiness. What you see here, it's called the world of Asiya, the world of action, the physical world. We learned already, and we've touched on it many times. There's a whole process to get from God to godliness. There's a massive process, and there's millions upon billions and trillions of angels and levels and myriad of until you get to here. So what you're seeing here is nothing. So there's what you could experience. So what you experience is the Amadeskalia, and that good that you experience is very, very watered down. But then there's the Amadeskasia. There's the godliness that can't be contained in the good that you can understand, or you're able to experience. Too much good. It's like a sugar high. A little sweet, good. Too much sweet, right? Gives you the right. It's not good. You can't take it. So why kuhuma Amadeskasia? It's from the hidden world. It's which is much higher than the revealed world. So let's take for example, let's say that each one of us are an expert, or not say expert, or know more than others in a certain field, right? So let's say you're teaching, and you're in media, right? And you're a pharmacist, and I'm a bum, right? All right. Right? So let's say, right, you have a lot of experience in promotion, right? And you want to explain it to me, guy who all I know is how to take selfie pictures of my food, right? I have no idea about promotion. What you're telling me is hardly anything about what you know, but you can't give it to me all. I'm going to confuse you. Oh, Rabbi, you should do this 4K, 3D. Yeah. Well, slow down. I can only take so much. So this is what you're telling me. And I might say, hey, he's not giving me all the information. But in order for me to get some information, you have to hide the other information, right? So while you experience it as pain, so to speak, because there's limitation, it's actually coming from a good place. So there's godliness that's giving, but sometimes you can't experience it. It's coming from a higher place, and that is, Alter Rebbe says here, comes from the level of Vavke. The most famous and powerful name of Hashem is Yud Ke Vav Ke. We can't even. It's such a holy name. We can't even say the letters. It's a Yud and the Hey and the Vav. That's I'm saying, and the to separate. Right? When we daven, we say Adnai. We can't even say the name. So Yud Ke is much higher. Yud Ke represents the world, the hidden world. Level of godliness that we can't truly appreciate. It's so holy, we can't appreciate it. We can't even say the name. That's why we say Kol Neshama, the Halakha, right? You're allowed to say Vav. You're allowed to say Vav Hey. That's not the really name of Hashem. You can't say Yud. You can't say Yud K. Right? Because Vav and Hey it represents the way godliness is appreciated. Shehu Vav Hey Mishem Havaya Baruch Hu. V'Amadiskasia Hu from the letter of Yud K. And this is what it says, and this is what it means in the pasuk. The Alter Rebbe is saying, this is what a guy should take to heart when he's going through some troubles. Praises the person that God spelled Yod and Hey. He chastens, he rebukes. I remember, I don't know if you can tell, I wasn't the perfect kid. Right? So I remember going to my father once. Surprisingly. Yeah, I know. Because I give up that impression, right, of being a model student, right? I go over to my father once and I say the teacher doesn't stop harassing me, and he always seems to be on my head. So my father says, "You want to know why your teacher's on your head? It's because he believes in you." So there were 35 kids in my class. We had a large class. There's some kids, the teacher in the class knows there's no hope. So he doesn't think, sit in the back, doodle, whatever it is, says he's invested in you because he thinks you have potential. That's why he's bothering you. If he didn't if he didn't believe in you, he would leave you alone. I didn't buy it at the time. So now I said I'd rather he would just leave me alone, right? So why is God invested in you? Why is God bothering you? Because he believes in you. Because he loves you. Because he wants to turn you around for whatever reason that Hashem has. Therefore, the famous Gemara in Yuma says, Gemara Yuma, it talks about Yom Kippur, and it talks about repentance, it talks about how do we cleanse ourselves from the dirt and the schmutz of sin. So the Gemara over there says, Ki asmechim b'yisurim, said that the person should be happy with Yisurim our troubles, trial, tribulation, hurt, pain. And it's out there that the Gemara says upon these people that they experience pain. It says those who love him shall be like the sun when the sun comes out in its full might. Meaning, we can't tolerate the sun. The sun is behind cover, right? It's because the sun's too powerful. So Alter Rebbe is saying like this, that when a person has the misfortune, what's really happening is it's love of Hashem in the disguise. Now again, it doesn't take away the question as why it has to be that way. Right? The question still remains. Why can't it take a different way? Why does the 4-year-old kid, right, didn't do anything wrong? Why is he in the ICU? This doesn't answer the question. Doesn't answer the question. So I don't want you to come away from this class thinking the rabbi says that the kid deserved it. That's not at all what I'm saying. But the point is, a person has to know that it's not like the Eibishter forgot about him, and or something. And everything the Eibishter does, it does good.
Can it be that it's not even for him, it's for his parents, for example, or people around him to...
I'd be very, very careful making that diagnosis.
Yeah.
We're not in the judgment business. You go down a very, very dangerous path.
No, I think the opposite. What I mean is that, and we're going to see it now, like because everything in this world is like midah keneged midah.
Yeah.
Then if something bad happens, we need to like lefashpesh in our pockets, right?
100%.
Like to look in our pockets.
100%. Yeah. Well, obviously the parents and grandparents are
parents
suffering too.
or
Yeah.
everyone around, right?
It's not that the child that suffers.
He's experiencing some pain.
100%.
We have to look in our pockets to see what.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, 100%. So the experience we feel good is from the good we experience as good is from the letters Vav and Hey. The good we experience, but not as good, are from the letters of Yud and Hey. Why it has to be the way that's his that's his business. But there's going to come a time where we're going to understand everything. It's going to come a time when Shach says, where the sun's going to be taken out of its sheath, so to speak. The Navi says, and we're going to appreciate the sun for its full power. It means there's going to come a time where we're going to understand that why Hashem did what he did and was a blessing all along. It wasn't that it was bad, because let's say, for example, the doctor gives you medicine with a needle. So the pain is for a good reason, but it's still pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the attitude is it's pain, but it's for a good reason. But there's going to come a time we understand why it had to be through the pain. So that's going to happen later. It says when Hashem takes the sun out of its you're going to experience the full power of the sun, so to speak. Mashiach comes. The joy is me'avosai, from its love. Kirvas Hashem Yisrael Kol Chaim Ha'olam. So let's say, for example, Hashem brings him close from the life of all this world. Let's say, for example, you have a hick, right? somewhere in Mississippi. No offense to anyone from Mississippi, Alabama, right? Whatever it is, right? This guy, lives in his shorts and his t-shirt, or he wears a shirt only when it dips under 60 degrees, right? The guy, whatever, overalls, suspenders, no shirt. The guy's very comfortable. For whatever reason, he decides to go to Washington D.C. And as he gets closer to Washington D.C., he says, look at me. I look like a slob. Maybe I should, take a shave, take a shower, put on some real clothing. And then, whatever reason, he wins the lottery to get a tour of the White House. He says, just long pants and a shirt, kind of cut. I need to wear a suit. They tell you're gonna meet the president. So maybe I should get dressed up. The point I'm trying to make is the closer you get to royalty or something special, the more imperfections are less tolerated. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you go to a diner, we do a permanent diner, right? If you go to a diner somewhere on the side of the road and there's dirt on the table, or the tablecloth's not white, big deal. You go into a Michelin star restaurant and there's a fingerprint on the glass. Hey, right? So the more a person comes close to God, and the more Hashem wants to bring you close, the more a person's imperfections are magnified. Let's take, for example, Morty and Juicy hits a rock. It's called baseball, right? No big deal, right? If he can make contact. Moshe Rabbeinu hits a rock. It's a whole big deal. It's on the front page of the news. Since when is hitting a rock a sin? You show me where hitting a rock is a problem, right?
Only when it says not to.
Right? He didn't say not to.
That's right.
Right? But the point.
Talk to the rock.
It's exactly.
But he also said, take your stick. Why take that? And Moshe did talk to the rock. The rock didn't listen. The point, I don't want to get into the details of the story. The point of the matter is, when you're Moshe Rabbeinu, the closer you are to God, the more imperfections are magnified. So God wants to bring you closer. The problem is you're wearing overalls and a dirty t-shirt. You got to get rid of that. It says, Hashem's kindness is better than life. Bringing Hashem, bringing coming closer, and nearness to God is infinitely greater than any other, some godly revelation. Hashem is sitting there in his shelter, in the boat of the Most High. Therefore, and the person who works on himself, and the person who cleanses himself, and based on his work now, so he will have the true understanding of what's going to Mashiach comes. But Mashiach comes, it's going to be the Shitzias Chama, the sun's going to come out, meaning that we're going to truly experience the godliness, the power of nature. That's what it says, by the way, in Alkut Shmeni, in the Medrash it says, in closer times of Mashiach, the well springs of the power of the world are going to open up. So now all the knowledge, right? He actually gives a time, which corresponds to the Industrial Revolution. Now we understand that the world has so much more power. Before, what was the world? 250 years ago, you plowed, right? Maybe Leonardo da Vinci understood there was more to it than meets the eye, right? Many people looked at the desert. It's a desert, nothing there. He plowed. Now we understand. There's nickel and there's this and right. There's all these different. The world has a lot more power. So when it comes time to Mashiach, we're going to understand what really was going on. Lasid to skala mechus, and then when in the future, what was hidden is going to be revealed. The Hainu, that means Sha'oz Yizkala Amma discussed. Then Mashiach comes, the hidden world will be revealed. And everyone's going to know. It says, famous verse, and the glory of Hashem will be revealed. Everyone's going to see. And we're going to stand in the shadow. Why in the shadow? When you stand in the shade, when the sun is too harsh. When Mashiach comes, we're going to truly understand the power. We're going to have to, so to speak, stand in the side. And now, it's enough to understand. It's the first thing Alter Rebbe says. You got to know that this trouble you're going through, you're worried about, it's bothering you from davening. The Eibishter doesn't forget about you. Yeah, it's a little hard. Let's finish up the chapter. But now the next thing you got to know is Alter Rebbe is going to get very psychological here, very interesting. Alter Rebbe now is going to talk psychology 101. That means there's a time and place for everything. And sometimes you have to know that if the message is coming at the wrong place in the wrong time, it's unhealthy, it's bad. Right? Like I once had a time, I was giving a sermon in the middle of shul on Shabbos. Guy came late, Halbetzara. He walks up to the podium, in the middle talking. Good Shabbos, Rabbi. It's very nice, he wants to say good Shabbos, but hello? Right?
Read the room, buddy.
Exactly. So sometimes a guy has trouble. I mean, he's thinking he has all these things. Alter Rebbe is going to say it. You think to yourself, why am I thinking about this now? Is it healthy? Is it good? And if you were thinking about, let's say something good, but it's the wrong time, then it's not healthy, right? Like, wife asked you, do I look fat?
No.
No, I'm saying is
Always no.
Who cares?
No,
By the way-
timing does not matter.
By the way, there was a great commercial for Geico. Says Geico save you 15%. Was honest Abe Lincoln honest? Abe, does this dress make me look fat?
Okay.
Yes. So Alter Rebbe is going to say, let's get back. So guy's trying to daven, right? And what happens? And he's worried about. Sorry. And now we dealt with the earthly problems, right? The guy says, "You have problems? Don't worry about it. Eibishter is taking care of you." Daven. Now Alter Rebbe is going to address a different problem. Guy's going to daven. You say, "My davening, you know what I am? I'm a sinner. I'm a this. I'm a that." Right? I'm insignificant, insufficient, insubordinate. I'm not a good Jew. God doesn't want to listen to me. And buddy, by the way, he's 100% right. He's a sinner. He's all these things. What the problem is? He's getting in the way of davening. So, and then what? The guy's going to think my davening is not worth anything. So then what? He's not going to want to daven, or his davening is going to be very lackluster. And the Alter Rebbe says that's exactly what the Yetzer Hara wants. He wants to cool your, like, why is Amalek? We just read it a few weeks ago. Why is Amalek the arch enemy of the Jewish people?
Because when all the nations were in fear, right? Pachad ve'imata.
Yeah.
They said, okay, we don't care. We're gonna go attack the Jews.
So what were they trying to accomplish?
To pull off the nations from
There you
killing
go.
the Jewish people.
Amalek represents the cooling of the enthusiasm.
Kalcha b'derech.
Exactly. Because once you're not enthusiastic about Judaism, then the Yetzer can say, okay, don't eat this. If you're excited about Judaism, right? You're excited. Maybe you say, oh, I'm excited to go eat in the sukkah. Yeah, go have shrimp, lobster in the sukkah. Are you crazy? Like, it doesn't, like, right? You know what I'm saying? But when you're excited about a mitzvah, then Yetzer Hara is, so the first step we got to do is we got to cool you down. Then, so now let's knock it off. This end of this chapter is awesome stuff. This is tomorrow's Tanya. So let's say a guy's not worried about his physical stuff, his material. He's worried about his spiritual thing, and he might say, "I'm being a good guy. Here, I'm trying to daven. I'm worried about being a good yid. I'm worried about my lack of Torah, my lack of davening." You have to seek ways to free yourself from this. That means, first of all, the time to think that you're not a good davener is not during davening. The time to think that you haven't learned enough Torah is not during learning Torah. That's the time to learn Torah. The time to think that you haven't davened properly yesterday is not the time during davening. Now daven. So he says, "Ein tzarich le'beshas avoda." Why? Because when you're davening, when you're doing a mitzvah, you have to do it with joy. God chose you to hear from you. God chose you to do a mitzvah. El afilu mishahu ba'al sakah b'derech eretz. So first of all, right now you got to daven. You got to daven with alacrity. You got to daven with joy. So you think, okay, so a guy's going to think I'm not a good Jew. I mean, I'm bad at praying and serving God when during business. So that might be a good question. If you think about God in the middle of business, that's normal.
Yeah.
Most people don't think about God during business. You know, there's a famous story. There was a chassid who had a store, and in between customers, he would have a sefer, he would have a book and learn. Right? One time, another Jew walked in, and the guy was so engrossed in his learning, he didn't notice the customer. So the guy tells him, "Listen here, I respect the fact that you don't want to waste any time, and you want to learn, but business is business." The customer walks in. God wants you to concentrate. It says 6 days you shall work, and 7th day you rest. You have to work. You can't just be oblivious to the world. So the chassid answers him, "Let me ask you a question. You ever try to daven Amida and you think about business?" Yeah, that's normal, right? So it's normal to think about business when talking to God. Why can't we say it's normal to think about God during business? Right? Most people, they don't think about God during business. They think about business during business, right? So he's saying, so if you all of a sudden have this spiritual awakening during business when you're involved in a business deal, I promise you it's not coming from a healthy place. Yeah? Meaning, a spiritual, I don't mean a good spiritual awakening. I mean a lousy spiritual awakening. If you're in the middle of business, all of a sudden you think to yourself, you know what, you know what's wrong with me? I don't learn enough there. Or my prayer is very bad.
No, but you can think about your pipeline or your deals or things, or whether you're gonna lose or win this or that.
That's something else.
And then you just, you get to think sometimes, okay, but it's in the hands of Hashem. I just do my
That's good.
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy thinking negatively about himself, that he's lacking in prayer and in study
during business.
No. Think you're a bad Jew during business. When you're thinking about everything relies on God, yeah, that's normal. But think that you're a bad Jew during business, that's not coming from a healthy place. So that says here, when you do a shetachpulas yetzer, you should know that this is the trickery of the evil inclination. Because first the Yetzer Hara comes to you and says, listen, you're a bad Jew anyway, you might as well stuff your face with whatever it is, indulge in whatever it is. Like it's known. Because if it's not the Yetzer Hara, why all of a sudden you're truly depressed? Because you love God so much and you fear God so much, in the middle of the business. Alter Rebbe says, this is one of the, by the way, the key points I took away from Tanya. Don't fool yourself. Everyone, you gotta know where you stand and where it's coming from. Do an honest accounting. You're middle of the business. Yesterday you didn't think about how bad your davening was. The day before, mitamol, you're thinking about, what's wrong with me? I don't learn enough. And it's having a bad effect on you. Because it's not that something. There's the idea that you need to daven better or you need to learn better. That's good. But if the effect is that it's saying, something, I might as well not daven. What's the point of my learning? Then that's the Yetzer Hara. So Alter Rebbe is going to say now, there is a time to think about what you're lacking. You have to look at yourself. It's called every night. We do a minor accounting. Before Shema, we say, what I did better, what I did wrong. My davening wasn't good. I'm going to do better. But if the effect of you thinking of how you're not as good a Jew is the result is that I might as well not daven. That's the Yetzer Hara. So he says, "V'hinei bein shenafla atzvus." Whether the depression happens, the sadness happens, b'shas aveda. But feel whether it happens inside of learning Torah, of praying, whether it happens, sadness happens, not in the time of service of God. This is what you have to take to heart. Right now is not the time. Not that being dissatisfied with oneself is bad. It's good. But there's a time and place. I feel that even if the guy's a real sinner. I mean, the guy, meaning It's not like the guy, didn't put on his tzitzis correctly, or there's a wrinkle in the tzitzis. No, we're talking about real sins. They did something really wrong, and that has to be addressed. If you want to take an account, look inside. There's no time for that. And you sit down. At least you think about the great God that you sent. There's time for the Erev Rosh Hashanah in the month of Elul. The Erev Rosh Chodesh, right? Yom Kippur, obviously, every night. There's time for this. But just chaparain, my wife is a teacher, and she coined the phrase "drive-by parent-teacher conference." Says you're walking by and a teacher comes to you. Oh, your kid didn't behave well today. You know what it does to the parent? That's not a way. If you got a problem with a kid, you call the parent. I want to speak to you about your child. You don't do just chaperein, whatever it is. Throw out the drive-by comment. There is a time to look inside and see where we have to improve. But stam azay in the middle of the day, with nowhere, you have feelings of you're a miserable Jew. That's not healthy. Today, because why? Because when you do it in a structured manner, say now I'm going to think about where I have to be better, where I have to be worse, and then when you look at yourself and you're honest with yourself and you realize where you have to be better, then the next step is the fact that I'm still living and breathing. That means God still believes in me. It means I'm not doomed. What the Yetzer Hara wants to present to you is that you're doomed to be a bad Jew. You're doomed that you can't daven, you can't learn, whatever it is. You're doomed. Don't bother trying. That's unhealthy. You look at yourself. That God is very special. And I screwed up, and I shouldn't have. But he says, it is a nishbar be'emes b'nus. A person's truly bitter. And he's regretful. And we're going to talk about when this time is. That's in section 3 of Tanya. Immediately after, his heart is broken and he feels terrible. Again, there's a difference between being bitter and being depressed. Depressed is you're worth nothing. That's bad. Bitter is I'm worth something. And I didn't live up to my potential. I'm better than that. And I'm broken because I acted in a way unbecoming an officer. It says then once you realize what you did wrong, said the Eibishter believes in me. And then you believe in the Eibishter, because again, the Eibishter, Hashem is not looking to show off who he's boss. Hashem is not looking to punish this, to kill the sinner. Hashem wants us to remove the sin, to change the title of the person from sinner to penitent. That's what he wants. And so Eibishter is waiting for us to repent. He's waiting for us to say, I'm sorry, to take account, to take responsibility, and make a resolution not to do it again. And we say, Rav L'Sleach, and Hashem is abundant in forgiveness. I step on your toe once, I'm sorry. Twice, 3 times, you're not forgiving me, right? How many times? But the Eibishter, Rav L'Sleach, the Eibishter is abundant in mercy and abundant in forgiveness. And this is the true joy. So we addressed here 2 things tonight. Number 1, mundane matters, which is a very tough pill. But you got to know the Eibishter is behind you 100%, and it's coming from a very high place. It's experienced in a very tough way, and if the sadness is thinking and is lack of self-worth as a Jew, that's not healthy. That's not healthy, because your worth is not decided by you. I think there's a story. A guy came to the Rebbe and he was disparaging himself about he's done good, it's not good. The Rebbe told him, "You don't even know anything about you." So, with these thoughts, these bad thoughts get into you that my davening is no good, and because of this, because of that. The answer is you don't even know. Your worth is embedded to you. The value is, like it said in the Declaration of Independence, God given. What is it? Embedded by God. Every person created equal, right? That's Hashem chose you. You're here. Do His mitzvahs and be happy. Have a good week.